Have you ever stopped to think what a jellyfish, a jaguar, and, well, you have in common? It might seem like absolutely nothing, right? But believe it or not, every single animal on this planet is part of one giant interconnected family tree. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the blueprint that scientists use to map out all this incredible diversity. And it all starts with just the sheer scale of it all.
Just look at that number, over 1 million known animal species. And you know what's crazy? That's just what we've managed to find and describe so far. There are so many more out there. You could spend your entire life just trying to memorize them all, and it would be impossible. So to even get a handle on this, we need a system, right? We have to find those common threads that tie this incredible variety of life together.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How do you tackle this? How do you find the connection between a simple little sponge and a complex scorpion, or a jellyfish just drifting in the ocean and a jaguar stalking through the jungle? Well, it's all about playing detective. We're going to look for clues in the way these animals are built, from the most basic level all the way up to piece together their shared history.
Okay, so our detective work begins with the absolute basics. The first question we have to ask is, how is an animal's body put together? Is it just a loose bunch of cells kind of working together? Or are those cells organized into specialized teams, like tissues and organs? This one question immediately splits the entire animal kingdom into some very, very different groups.
You can totally think of it like a ladder of complexity. Down at the very bottom rung, we've got animals at the cellular level, like sponges. They're basically just colonies of cells hanging out. Take one step up the ladder, and you get to the tissue level. Think jellyfish, where cells form specialized groups to do specific jobs. Go a little higher, and you start seeing distinct organs in animals like flatworms. And then, at the very top, you've got complex organ systems, like our own digestive and circulatory systems, which we actually share with animals like earthworms.
So, once we figure out how organized an animal's body is, the very next clue we look for is its overall shape, or what biologists call its symmetry. This is like the fundamental blueprint of the animal, and it tells us a whole lot about how it lives its life.
And really, when you boil it all down, there are two main designs. You can almost think of it as this major fork in the road in the story of animal evolution. On one path, we have radial symmetry, and on the other, we have bilateral symmetry.
Radial symmetry is, well, it's the pizza design. It's a great way to think about it. You can slice it right through the center any way you like, and you'll always get two identical halves. This body plan is absolutely perfect for animals that pretty much stay in one spot, like a sea anemone, or for ones that just drift along with the currents, like a jellyfish. It lets them meet the world equally from all directions.
And then you've got bilateral symmetry. With these animals, there's only one way you can slice them to get two mirror images, a distinct left side and a right side. Now this might seem simple, but this was an absolute game changer in evolution. It allowed for purposeful directional movement. And that in turn led to the development of a head, which concentrates all the sense organs, and a brain right at the front. This is the design that lets an animal hunt, run away, and explore its world with purpose.
All right, so we've looked at the building blocks and the outside shape. Now, our investigation is about to take us deeper, right inside the animal's body to see how it's all constructed from the very first moments of its life.
You see, very early in development, an animal's cells form these fundamental layers. The simpler animals are called diploblastic. They just have two layers, an outer one called the ectoderm and an inner one, the endoderm. But the huge evolutionary leap was becoming triploblastic, which is the addition of a third middle layer, the mesoderm. And that mesoderm, that's the magic ingredient. It's what gives rise to all the complex stuff, like organs, powerful muscles, and even bone.
And that middle layer, the mesoderm, makes another crucial feature possible, something called the colome. Basically, it's a fluid-filled cavity inside the body. Think of it like a protective cushion for all the internal organs. It gives them room to grow and move and do their jobs without being squished by the body wall. So whether an animal has this cavity and how it's formed is a massive dividing line in the animal kingdom.
So this gives us three possibilities. First up, you have the acolomates, like flatworms. They're just solid tissue all the way through, no cavity at all. Then you've got the pseudocolomates, like roundworms. They have a cavity, but it's not fully lined by that all-important mesoderm layer. And finally, you have the true colomates. That's us, and also earthworms, where the cavity is completely enclosed by mesoderm. This is the setup that allows for the most complex internal organs and systems to develop.
And here it is.
This is the result of all our detective work. By asking these few simple questions about organization, about symmetry, about internal cavities, we've built a family tree for the entire animal kingdom. This chart, called a cladogram, isn't just some boring list. It's a map of evolutionary history, showing how every animal is connected, all the way back through time.
Now that we've got our classification toolkit, let's put it to use. We're going to take a quick tour through some of the major branches on this tree and see exactly how these principles play out in real, living animals.
We'll start with phylum Porifera, better known as the sponges. These are about as basic as multicellular animals get. They operate at that simple cellular level of organization, no true tissues, and most of them don't have any kind of defined symmetry. You probably know Euspongia, that's the classic bath sponge, and Cycon is another common example.
Moving up the tree, we find the cnidarians. This group includes jellyfish, sea anemones, and corals. They're a definite step up in complexity, with true tissues and that classic radial symmetry we talked about. But what really, truly sets them apart is their unique and powerful secret weapon, these incredible stinging cells.
And here it is, the cnidoblast. This tiny, complex cell is basically a microscopic harpoon. When it's triggered, it fires out this barbed, often venomous thread to stun prey, defend itself, or just anchor onto a rock. It's a truly amazing piece of biological engineering, isn't it?
All right, now we meet the worms. You've got flatworms like tapeworms and roundworms like ascaris. They both have bilateral symmetry, which means they have a distinct head end. But the key difference between them is on the inside. Flatworms are acollimates, solid tissue right through. Roundworms, though, they've taken a step further and developed a pseudocolum, that false body cavity.
Next up is the phylum Annelida, which includes our friends the earthworms and also leeches. This group shows off two major advances. First, they are true collimates, and second, they have what's called metameric segmentation. Their bodies are built from a series of repeating segments. This kind of modular design turned out to be a really successful strategy for both movement and specialization.
And now, let's talk about the undisputed rulers of the animal kingdom, the arthropods. This one phylum contains over 2/3 of all known animal species on Earth. I mean, that's just mind-blowing. Their success comes down to a winning formula: a tough protective exoskeleton made of something called chitin, and these super versatile jointed legs, which they use for everything from walking and swimming to feeding.
Not too far behind in terms of sheer numbers is phylum Mollusca, the second largest group. They are incredibly diverse, but most of them share a basic body plan: a soft body, a muscular foot for getting around, and very often a hard shell for protection. This includes everything from a tiny garden snail to the incredibly intelligent octopus.
The name Echinodermata literally means spiny-skinned, and you can see why when you look at starfish and sea urchins. Now, what's really wild about this group is their symmetry. Their babies, their larvae, are bilateral, just like us. But as they grow into adults, they undergo this radical transformation and become radially symmetrical. They also have this unique water vascular system, which is like a hydraulic network they use to move their little tube feet.
Here you can see two classic examples of this phylum. On the left, there's the familiar starfish, and on the right is its more delicate cousin, the brittle star. You can clearly see that 5-part radial symmetry in both of them. It's the hallmark of this unique group of animals that, for whatever reason, decided to go back to a circular body plan.
So, from simple clusters of cells to incredibly complex organ systems, from creatures that drift with the current to strategic, bilateral hunters, this classification system reveals the grand, sprawling story of animal evolution. Every single creature has a place, and that place is defined by its most fundamental design. Which leads to one final thought. We are on one of these branches too. So knowing how this whole tree is built, what does that tell you about our own unique and incredible evolutionary journey?